And if you said the greatest movie Hitchcock never made, Jaws might be it. A close second would be Cape Fear. Every movie I've ever made has copied from this film. And when we're in the edit, the trailer for this dropped. And I was like, oh shit, I've just wasted my life again. And I got to know this movie off by heart. You can test me if you want. If God made a movie, I think it would look like this. And I always thought to myself, if I ever meet Tarantino, I'm telling him this story and we're gonna become best friends. The problem is with Star Wars, to me, it's not really a film. It's kind of like the Bible.
10 men feel like 100.
With a stimulant, the future's never looked better.
Save the rebellion! Save the dream!
So Gareth, welcome to GM Video.
Thank you for having me.
This is one of the two last video stores in Paris, actually.
Wow.
And before we talk about the film you have chosen, I'd like to ask you what is your relationship with those kind of places, and more globally with the physical edition of films such as DVDs and Blu-rays.
Yeah, well, actually, I've never actually told this before, but I used to work in a video store.
Okay.
When I was at film school, I knocked on all the video stores and was like, please give me a job. And there was one called Star Video in Farnham, which was basically where I worked whilst I was making short films. And in terms of Blu-rays and DVDs, it makes me feel sad because I miss all this, you know what I mean? And I hope that eventually we go back to physical media. Like, I think streaming is ruining this physical objects that I think it's human nature to want to hold something in your hand. And I recently, it's sad to say this, but when I made Jurassic, I took all of my stuff out of storage and I had all my Blu-rays and DVDs that I grew up with. And it was literally, like genuinely, like all this at least. And I had to give it away. Yeah. And I feel terrible. And I'm here now going, I might steal some of this or buy it back off you if that's okay.
You can try if you want. Yeah.
Okay, we can wrestle at the end on the way out.
We are going to the American section.
Okay. King of the Monsters? This is Michael Dougherty's film. This is the sequel to a not so good Godzilla. This is much better. I mean, look, there's been some amazing debuts. I think this is up there for one of the greatest debuts ever made.
Sarah Connor?
Yes?
It's whether you count Piranha 2 as James Cameron's debut. No, I don't think he would, and I don't either. It's just the near-perfect storytelling. I think his best directed film is probably Terminator 2.
My mission is to protect you.
Yeah? Who sent you?
You did.
But I think this is one of the best stories he's ever written. And it's like perfection. The way it comes full circle, everything connects to the beginning. So when I was 16, when I turned 16, I asked for money off everybody. And my goal was to get enough money to buy a second-hand VHS player. Okay. And so I ended up, I think I got 130 quid and I went down the local store where they would sell second-hand VHSs, and I brought it home, and the first thing I put in it was the Terminator. And it never came out for about 3 months, and I watched it on loop every day, and I got to know this movie off by heart. You can test me if you want. And it's no fluke when someone makes an amazing film like this. You think, if you see something this special, it's like they're going to have a great career. And obviously he did. It's one of my favorites. There's a big debate whether you prefer the Terminator, Terminator 2 or Aliens, you know. But I think this gets my vote. This, Terrence Malick.
Yeah.
For me, it's a toss-up between The Thin Red Line and The Tree of Life, probably, which is the best Malick film, personally. I saw this in the cinema. It came out the same year as Saving Private Ryan, I think.
Your brothers were killed in combat.
And so it kind of got a little bit, didn't get all the love that it should have got. No offense to Spielberg. I did my first movie, it was called Monsters, and the first review on the first day, obviously you get really obsessed with like, what does anyone think? And the very first review was from Slash Film, and I read it, and it said something like, if Terrence Malick made a monster movie, it'd probably be something like this. And when I read that line, I thought, what are they on about? Like, Terrence Malick, what, huh? And so I ended up revisiting this movie to see what they meant, and then I realised that I'd subconsciously stolen nearly everything from Terrence Malick. And when I got to do The Creator, I worked with the AD that works with Terrence Malick, Scott, and obviously like in between shooting I was just trying to get every little story I could out of him, and there were so many great little tips. A little handy tip if you're a Terrence Malick fan and want to make movies is when you scout a location, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, you should just always have base camp in the north, because that's the flat light and you're never going to want to film that direction. And so there's all sorts of little things like that where and never say cut and always send random things through set. I think they're called torpedoes on a Terrence Malick set, and they just create chaos for the actors and make everything a bit more naturalistic and real. But I think this is a phenomenal work of art.
Do you still read reviews about your movies?
No. I used to. When I first made my first film, I was on Twitter, I was desperate to know what people thought. And now, this last year, when I've been making Jurassic, I haven't looked on the internet once. I daren't do it. It's like, because even if you get lots of nice things said, if there's one person says they didn't like it, it just destroys your day. Yeah. And so it's like walking out the street, someone going, oh, you look good, oh, nice coat, you know, and you're like, oh, that's great. And if someone goes, oi, wanker, you sort of like, no one can feel good about that. So I have stopped looking. It's not worth it. But my girlfriend screen grabs any nice comments and she sends them to me, so I can avoid it, yeah. You can't talk about the greatest films ever made without talking about this one.
Al, I won't argue with you anymore. Open the doors.
Dave, this conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
Al?
You know what happened? So basically, I think I was 16. At school, we had to do a book review, and they had a whole list of books we could read, and it was the only science fiction book on that list was Arthur C. Clarke's 2001. Okay. And so I read it, and I hadn't seen the film, and so as I was reading it, I think it's my favourite book I've ever read. Everything in it was like perfection. Like the things it was talking about, the themes, it was like the biggest, most important subject you could ever make a story about. And I felt really sad that I was reading one of my first proper science fiction books, and I knew I was reading the best one, like first time. And it's quite a common theme with great work, it's usually their first ever go is like the best one. I rented the VHS and I'd pictured 2001 in my mind, reading the book, and I watched the movie and it was nothing like how I'd imagined. It was also not in widescreen, it was like a pan and scan version. And I was kind of like, you know, I was 15, 14 or something, and I was a little bit bored. And it's like any masterpiece, as I watched it and I thought, I wasn't that bothered. It went away. About a week later, all those images and all those themes are like echoing around my brain. I'm like, I'm going to rent it again and watch it again. And I watched it again the next week and I was like, it's actually not bad, it's all right. A week goes by, I rent it again and I watch it again, then I pirated it. I made a copy with my dad's. And then I watched it quite a few times. And after about a month, I decided it was one of the greatest films ever made.
That's a very nice rendering, Dave. I think you've improved a great deal.
And that's what happens with these things, is like I think what happens is people have like been influenced by them since, and if you didn't see it when it came out, you've seen all the influences, so it doesn't seem that fresh. But then what happens is it slowly over time, like a mature wine, it just beats all those influences and rises to the top, and you sort of realize like how special it is. And I'd say that's definitely the case with 2001. And I recently watched a 70mm print. It was the only time we escaped the edit suite. And it was because the editor, Jabez, he's a massive fan. And as I was walking to work every day on the way to edit Jurassic, I listened to the making of 2001, which is this new book that came out. Highly recommend it. It's amazing.
It also altered the course of Hollywood. It marked the switch from the Western to big budget science fiction.
And I got really sad when it ended, because I was like, I just enjoyed, like every single anecdote is amazing. And it's also like something that you think is genius, like this. As a filmmaker, you're going, how did they think of that? Where did that idea come from? And listening to that book, everything becomes tangible. Like you realize how all these ideas formed, and they're not like bolts out the blue. They're quite logical conclusions based on things that happen to them. And so it makes the ability of doing a masterpiece like not an impossible task. You know what I mean? Like you can be done, you know. It's not like time travel or something. Yeah. Apocalypse Now. again, very similar to 2001. I started discovering like good films when I was about 15, 16, when I got my VHS player, and I would borrow them off people and I'd sit and watch them. And I'd heard that this was the greatest war movie ever made. So it had really high expectations. I didn't know what to expect. And again, I watched it, and my mate who loved it, when I gave him back the tape, he was like, what do you think? What do you think? I remember going to someone like, yeah, it's all right. Yeah, it's all right. And he just looked at me like, are you an idiot? And I was, because it was, again, the same sort of thing. I left it for a bit, and then a month goes by or something, and I'm like, I need to see that again. So I went and bought it, watched it again, and it just creeps up on you. It's like you're infected, like you have a viral infection when you see a film like this. And it's just a matter of time. You'll watch it one more time, maybe another time, and then you'll suddenly realize, like, it's phenomenal.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
What I do when I begin every movie, I grab imagery from all sorts of places, photography, you know, design, films, and then I basically try to categorize it, and I basically make something that's kind of like a little template for the movie before you have anything. And I've noticed over the years that this gets high score in those little templates I've built. There's something about going down river or going up river into the unknown through this tropical jungle with a group of soldiers that just feels really correct, like really mythical, like the ultimate story. And Jurassic World Rebirth, I think, has a little bit of thanks to this movie, slightly, and so does things like Rogue One and The Creator and Monsters and even Godzilla. Every movie I've ever made has copied from this film. Reservoir Dogs.
You're hurt real fucking bad. But you ain't dying! I'm gonna die!
This gets high score for the movie I saw the most in the cinema. I saw it 6 times when it came out. It blew my mind. Basically, I was about 16. I think the truth is I'd never really seen like proper independent cinema. I'd grown up on Star Wars and Spielberg movies and things, and I'd seen a few things, obviously. My dad had made me watch stuff over the years, but this was like a little like best of, all amalgamated into a perfect story of like everything about world cinema and independent filmmaking and you know, obviously an introduction to Tarantino. And I remember the guy who lent me, Chucky his name was, the guy who lent me Apocalypse Now. There was this film festival in the UK called Shots in the Dark in Nottingham, and he was up there, and basically Tarantino was going to come because Reservoir Dogs was playing, and we heard that Tarantino was going to come at the end of the week. And I suddenly get this phone call from my friend, and he's like, "You never guess what just happened." And I was like, "What? He's like, I just hung out with Tarantino. He's at the whole festival." And basically, he was hanging out the whole festival, watching all the movies. And so, I just got in the car and went up there, with the idea that maybe I could meet him. And so we ended up going up there and seeing a film, The Samurai. At the end, he did this Q&A. I already had him sign a postcard for me. And then I bought a poster of Reservoir Dogs, and when he was signing it, he went to sign it, and he said, "What's your name?" And I said, "Oh, I've already got one to Gareth. Can you just write something else?" And so he wrote, "To Mr. Purple, aka Gareth," Quentin Tarantino, because in the movie, Steve Buscemi wants to be Mr. Purple.
How about if I'm Mr. Purple? I mean, that sounds good to me. I'll be Mr. Purple.
And he says, "You can't be Mr. Purple. He's on another job. You're Mr. Pink."
Some guy on some other job is Mr. Purple. You're Mr. Pink.
So I'm officially Mr. Purple. And I framed that poster, and I had it on my bedroom wall for like 20 years.
Oh my God.
And I always thought to myself, if I ever meet Tarantino, I'm telling him this story, and we're going to become best friends. and obviously, one day, the day came, I made a film called Monsters, and ended up showing it at the screening. And they said, "Can you introduce it?" And I go down, it's a very small cinema, and I start introducing it. As I'm introducing it, I see Harvey Weinstein in the audience. I'm like, holy cow. And then I look, and then there's Quentin Tarantino, and I don't know what to say. And I end up just doing my little introduction, running round to the back projector and just watching the whole movie through the projection booth, and just seeing if he jumped or anything like this. And then at the end, he came up to me, and I was so starstruck. Afterwards, everyone goes, "What did he say?" And I was like, all I heard was like, because I was just like spending the whole day going, "Oh my God, it's Quentin Tarantino." And so I've got no idea what he said. He was being complimentary, I think. But I think this is the best debut ever made. Forget Citizen Kane, it's this.
And I put another film of Tarantino because I think that for the creator, you try to do like the widest shape of screen possible.
Oh yeah, I basically The last movie I made, we shot it on anamorphic, 2x anamorphic, and we shot it on cameras. Actually, we shot it on these cameras. We shot it on an FX3, which is a camera that you can get from, as you know, just around the corner down the street. And it got an IMAX release, and it was basically ultra wide screen, like it was crazy wide. It was actually wider than you can possibly do. And we wanted to release it like that, and the studio were like, you can't, there's been no precedent, no one's ever done this before. But thankfully, because of Tarantino and Hateful Eight, we got to release it in 2.76, I think, which is like the ultra wide screen format. There's only a few cinemas that show it. One of them is the Cinerama Dome, which is temporary closed, so hurry up and open it up again. Alien. You can't do a monster in a film, and you either have to completely ignore and therefore not do a very good design. You have to ignore H.R. Giger's Alien in this movie, or you slightly get influenced by it. Like, it's really hard. It's like they make, again, the first one is the best one. There's a friend that was a designer who worked on The Dark Knight, and he did the design for the Joker's face and the mask and everything.
You wanna know how I got these scars?
And he was saying it's like trying to find a parking space in the Disney World car park. You know, like, there's one here somewhere, but you can't find it. Like, trying to find a new design for a monster is impossible. They've all been done. They look amazing. So yeah, this is definitely gets high score. I think there's a really important lesson in this movie. Greg Fraser, who I did Rogue One with, and the creator, you try and figure out, why does this film look so good? Why does this film look so good? They're probably two of the greatest looking films that have ever been photographed. What is happening here? Obviously Ridley Scott is a common thing they have in common. But one of the things that I read that I think was really interesting is that what they would do is they would get on set, and by default they would put a million lights everywhere and light everything. And the first thing that Ridley would do when he would turn up on set is he would turn off all the lights, make it pitch black, and then just one at a time flick one on, and then flick another one on, and flick another one on. And he would just see what the one light looked that was best. And when he found that one light, he'd go, great, that's the hero light. Then he'd try and flick another one on, until there was just like two lights, and he'd say, that's it. And so the moral of the story is, don't overlight. Yeah. Like, in the world, we only have one sun, and it works a treat. It's like, don't try too hard, you know, and then once it's lit and it's beautiful, then try and find the composition that looks good within that. That was like a massive lesson for me that I've tried to take with me on all my films.
All those moments will be lost in time.
In Search of a Midnight Kiss, this is Scoot McNairy's first, well, it's not his first movie, it's the movie that I discovered him with.
That ring has so much fucking hatred and just anger and aggression and fucking frustration and just divorce all tied into that. But you know what? I don't care. My love for men is so strong that I'm gonna beat the McIntyre curse. This is also distributed by Vertigo Films, which made Monsters, my first movie. And I remember they sent me a copy of this, and I didn't know why. They actually sent it saying they knew what they were doing, but they pretended, hey Gareth, watch this, it was made for virtually no money. You're about to make a movie for no money. Okay, maybe there's something you could learn. So I watched it, and it was in black and white. It's kind of like New Year's Eve. And I got to the end, and it was really smart, and the performances were great, and I handed it back and said, yeah, it was great. And they were like, yeah, cool. And then eventually they were like, what do you think of the actor? And I was like, oh, he was really good. And he had all these qualities that I loved. To me, he felt like a sort of Richard Dreyfuss type or something. Okay. And so they were saying, what about him being in your movie? And I was like, well, that'd be amazing. Can we get someone like that? And so then we contacted Scoot, and he said, this sounds really interesting. And I said, but the thing is, though, I actually didn't want to get an actor on their own. I wanted to have a real life couple, so that the relationship would feel completely real. And they said, he said, well, actually, my girlfriend's an actress. I'll send through her picture now. And he sent me this email. It was back in the day when email was a bit slow. I remember this email loading, and I was thinking to myself, I don't know what I'm about to see. And weirdly, this absolutely gorgeous girl came through. And normally you'd go, yay! But actually it went, oh no. I didn't want to do this like cheesy American thing where everyone's like over the top good looking. And then I went over and I met them, and they were so incredible and down to earth and totally naturalistic. And now I've made the movie. I can't picture any other way.
Whitney is the sort of the goal of the movie. You've got to save this girl and get her back to America. And so I was very lucky to have worked with them. They're phenomenal actors. Martin Scorsese, Cape Fear.
If you don't leave my family alone, and if you don't get out of here, you're gonna be hurting like you never dreamed. Could you repeat that?
It's very strange. Basically, if someone goes, what are your favourite? If someone says, what's your favourite Martin Scorsese film? You're going to expect someone to go, oh, it's a toss-up, maybe Taxi Driver, maybe Goodfellas, maybe Raging Bull. And I'm like, what about Cape Fear? And everyone looks at you like, what? And it's because I was, again, 15, 16 when this came out. I think that's like the perfect age to watch films. And it blew my mind. I remember I saw it 3 times in the cinema. Okay. And I remember there's a shot where the camera drops down and sees Robert De Niro underneath the car. And I started to nearly cry. I remember welling up and feeling a tear in my eye. It was because I was just so happy to see such a well-directed film. Like, he was doing things with the camera that, you know, you picture in your head and you go, is this just stupid? Why would anyone do this? And he was doing it better than, you know, you'd ever imagined, and it was working an absolute dream. And it was like someone had gone and done the best work you could ever imagine doing and proving like it's fucking brilliant. And so I just felt like I've picked the right career. Like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And it was just that reaffirming moment of like seeing an absolute master do amazing things and making it look so easy. That I understand if people don't think Cape Fear is his best, but I think it's so theatrical. There's so many aspects of it with the camera moves that are so Scorsese, and then with the Bernard Herrmann-esque music. I like to play this game sometimes where it's like the greatest movie so-and-so never made. And if you said the greatest movie Hitchcock never made, Jaws might be it. A close second would be Cape Fear. Never seen this film.
I want to learn the ways of the Force and become a Jedi like my father.
The problem is with Star Wars is to me it's not really a film. It's kind of like the Bible. You know what I mean? It's like religion. It's where you learn that this thing you grew up thinking was everything was actually just this thing called a movie. And then it makes you get into all these other things like, oh, I've got to find more movies. And the honest truth is, like, you can look all you want, but it's kind of one of the best, right? It's, I will fight someone to the death over this. George Lucas, what he's done, like, if you think about his work, THX, right? It's a really art housey, like, groundbreaking, brave, bold piece of cinema. American Graffiti, it was so honest and like in touch with the coming of age kind of filmmaking.
Hey, Lori, what in the hell are you doing in there? Is she gonna ride with you?
Mind your own business, John.
Yeah, she's going with me.
And then Star Wars, forget even Indiana Jones and everything. He did all that and it just changed cinema. And then on top of that, he changed cinema again by creating these digital tools. These cameras would not exist without George Lucas. Editing on your computer would not exist without George Lucas. You create things like Pixar, Industrial Light and Magic, Skywalker Sound, you know, everything. And then on top of that, I got to do a Star Wars film.
Suddenly the rebellion is real for you. Some of us live it. I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old.
And so it's like, I feel like I'm so indebted to this guy and this movie. I still can't believe that Rogue One exists because of this. And people talk about what's, you know, the best Star Wars films, and it's a scientific fact. I would accept an argument between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back.
I am your father.
No. It's not true.
Like, that's an argument I will willingly let people fight to the death over. I think that's fair. Return of the Jedi is definitely third.
So, you have accepted the truth.
I've accepted the truth that you were once Anakin Skywalker, my father.
That name no longer has any meaning for me.
And the rest is a free-for-all. Like, it's those three are totally the greatest ever made. It's fantastic.
I read that you have to work by yourself to create the visual effects on your first film, Monsters.
Yeah.
How important was the cinema of, like, George Lucas or Peter Jackson in like the determination to do this? at your place on your own? And
yeah, so the first film I did, obviously, I did all the visual effects myself at home, for better or for worse. And actually, you know what? I was planning to do this movie. So originally, the first movie I did was this monster movie that I made for like 250 grand. And my first pitch, I put this document together, and I ended up, you know, like, it's so much easier for people who are financing films if you say it's this meets this, you know what I mean? You just make it simple. And I said it's War of the Worlds meets Blair Witch, right? And the idea was, what if there was an alien invasion and but it was all shot on video? And I was like, this is going to be great because I can shoot it on a video camera, I can do all the visual effects myself, it'll be really cheap, and it'll be ultra real, and this is going to be brilliant. And I had this whole document, and all my friends were like, who would go, what are you doing now, Gareth? And I'd be like, I'm going to make a movie, and it's going to be like Blair Witch, but like War of the Worlds or whatever. And then one day, everyone took great pleasure in sending me a trailer for this, Cloverfield.
Did I? Yeah. Run. Okay, run. Actually, run. Hey, let's start running. Just run. Just run. Just start running right now. Just start running now.
And my heart just dropped, and I was like, so, you know, I've been beaten to the punch, right? And this is obviously fantastic and way better than I could have ever done. It really made me, I had to scrap the whole idea. I'd spent like a year on figuring it out, and so I just had to throw it in the bin. It's like the great thing about DVDs is they would come with behind the scenes. I honestly would watch the making of Lord of the Rings all day long. I'd basically do visual effects from home, and I'd have that on in the background like it was a TV channel. And I would just be working, but I'd just be listening to this, and it was so inspiring.
Probably the most frustrating thing for me was working on my knees.
All these people, when they did amazing work, they sort of ignored what had happened before and what the rules were and what you're supposed to do, and they just did it their own way, or they just did it the way they thought you should make a film, and it totally worked out for them. And so I think that's a great lesson, is like, a lot of people will tell you what you can't do, and if you listen to them, you won't ever do anything, so ignore them. I remember going around doing a tour around this studio just before the pandemic, and they had a poster up, and it was how you make a film, and it was pre-production, production, post-production with all the stages. And I looked at it going, why have they got this up? This is really obvious, this is strange. And the guy who ran the studio went, oh, I can see you're looking at the poster. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, it's over 100 years old. And I looked, and it was fraying at the edges, and it was all like, and stained and everything. And I realized, oh my God, it's 100 years old. And then I felt embarrassed, because you go, in 100 years, we've never changed how you make a film. Like, with all these digital advances, all this new technology, we're still doing it like we did in Victorian times. Like, the idea that you can't do it a better way, a new way, I think it's just absurd. And so every film, I think the process of making a film is as important as the idea itself. I think how you make a movie affects how it turns out just as much as the idea. So they're very inspiring people.
For Frodo.
Talking of films that beat me to the punch, this was another one.
What is happening to my arm? Just breathe deep. What is happening to my arm, doctor? What is this on the arm? Just breathe deep. Just calm down.
As I was making Monsters, I was all excited, the idea that we're doing this thing in a sort of developing country with aliens. And when we're in the edit, the trailer for this dropped. And I was like, oh shit. I just wasted my life again. But, you know, hats off to Neil Blomkamp, he deserves it. It was a phenomenal film, so.
We have time for one last.
Okay.
So maybe we can talk a little bit about Spielberg. I think it's important for you.
Just like Scorsese, what's the best Spielberg movie ever made? Everyone's going to have a different opinion, and depending on the day of the week, I'll have a different opinion. But I think probably the film I'm most jealous of would be Close Encounters. I think because it's a serious movie about a really profound idea, and it's magical. It has all the qualities of Spielberg's other films. It's very artistically done. It's classic, you know, classical storytelling. It feels like something David Lean might have made. I don't know, I always watch this film. I analyze it, and I try to learn the magic trick. And with some filmmakers, you watch the magician do the trick, and after about 3 goes, you go, oh, I see what he did, he put it up his sleeve. And you understand, and you go, okay, got it. But with Spielberg, you watch the trick over and over, and I've watched this film probably like 100 times, And every time I watch it, I try to figure out, how did he do this? What is he thinking? And you watch the magic trick, and eventually, after 100 watches, you go, I just think it's real magic. Like, I don't think there's a trick. I think he's a magician. It's like pure cinema, total magic, and it's depressing because you'll never make a movie this good. And I'm going to talk about one film before we go, if they are out of time. I can't leave without talking about Baraka.
Yeah, it's amazing, yeah.
So I feel like if there's one film I need to talk about more than any other film, it's this one, because it doesn't get enough love. It's called Baraka. If you only do one thing, go buy this movie, go rent this movie, go watch it. It's the ultimate storytelling. I left a review a long time ago, I think, on Amazon, 20 years ago, and my review was, if God made a movie, I think it would look like this, right? There's very few films, in terms of being profound and brilliant and masterpiece and genius, that can compete with 2001, and I would say Baraka gets there. Like, it's not a story, there's no story, don't expect a story, it's beyond that. Like, the great moments of cinema are not about words, they're about feelings and your own imagination. And this movie is probably like, if you never want to do psychedelic drugs or get stoned, then go rent Baraka and have a spiritual moment and realize your place in the universe.
In the same spirit, do we have seen Koya Niskatsi?
Yeah, but I honestly, like, it's all these things of where it's whichever one you saw first, and I saw this one first.
Okay.
I actually was at film school, and I went in to see my mate, who were living in a different house, and they were all smoking weed. And I walked in this room, and I was trying to find a particular friend, and I was like, is Rob here? And they were like, oh, and they said something. And I just looked at the TV, and you know when you see something, I just saw like 2 shots. And it was like it's like witnessing something you knew. And I just went, what movie is this? And they went, Baraka. I remember just turning around going, Baraka, 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 Baraka. And walking home going, Baraka, Baraka. Because it was before phones and you could write anything down. And then that weekend I went to London, and I just went into like HMV or Tower Records and found Baraka on VHS. And I've never regretted it. It's been such an influence on me. Ron Fricke, who made this, doesn't get enough love. It is true masterful filmmaking, like pure cinema.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is that okay? Is that enough?
That's perfect.
My God, you really have got... Hey Dolores, how you doing? You okay? You okay? You come to see some films? Let me show you something you might like. Hold on. Have you ever seen this? It's a masterpiece. Don't be confused. It's not called Catastrophe. It's called Jurassic Park.
Gareth?
Yeah?
Can you tell us a bit about how it comes when you have to shoot with animatronics such as Dolores?
They're asking me how the film was with shooting with animatronics, but I don't know what they're on about, because we had just real dinosaurs on the film, didn't we, Dolores? No animatronics on this movie. Yeah? Have they hired you yet for the sequel? They haven't hired me.
Konbini!